be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is also being held by Zoom at the link provided on this notice. Please note that the available Zoom option is for the convenience of the public. If any technical difficulties were to occur with Zoom, the meeting will continue. If you wish to continue to participate, you must report to the location on this notice. Please be aware of this and plan accordingly. And the Zoom link number is 883-414-28843. I'm Bob Pease. I'm the chairman. We have 3 members that are physically present tonight, and we have 3 members participating remotely. We'll just take a roll call at the beginning. Patty Adams?
Here.
Jeff Viviano?
Yep.
I'm sorry, we have Mike LaRouche?
Here.
Jack Rabbit?
Here.
And we have 5 members. I can't count. So, because I was counting Mike LaRouche twice because he's on my screen and next to him. So we have 5 members tonight. So, first thing on the agenda is announcements, and I have an announcement. The town received a letter today from Bright Farms, the company that was going to develop the lettuce farm, and they decided not to pursue it because they're going to buy an existing lettuce farm. And they had planned to give the town a parcel of land, and as a gesture of goodwill, they're giving the Open Space Committee, not the Conservation Commission, the Open Space Committee $10,000 donation to use to acquire land or keep up the trails or whatever. So that was great news. Any other public comment from the commission? Any public comment from the public?
Hey, Bob, my hand's not going up. I don't know why.
Well, because you're not raising it, Jack.
I know, I can't. There it is.
Jack, would you like to speak now?
Just very briefly. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Just a quick update. Matt and I have had a chance to meet over a site visit. And the good news is that Matt's made some great headway in terms of doing research on our trees. And Matt, perhaps you want to say something about this, but this is one great manual with regards to the types of trees to be planted. I mean, it covers the whole piece of it. Now, this is an exact copy of the town of Littleton, right, Matt? And combined with our definition of trees and things like that, we should be able to have a package for your review. And I would bet, oh gosh, never mind, give me about 6 weeks.
Thank you, Jack. Something for me to look forward to.
Oh, always.
Any other comments from the commission? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll go right to the next thing on our agenda, which is minutes of the previous meeting, August 4th.
I have 2 corrections.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
16 Ruth Street, about halfway down. Just a sentence. Mr. Colstrom also pointed out the location of his well with a concrete cover and was concerned about tree roots interfering with the roots, so I would change roots to well. I think the motion was 6 mountain laurel and 4 blueberry as well on that, so 4 blueberry should be added. If that's, my memory is correct, please correct me if it's not.
I'll double check that, Jeff, but I did the motion right off the video.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, I'll double check it anyway.
And then tree standards, vertical stem 5 centimeters, inches 2 inches. So I think you meant to say vertical stem 5 centimeters or 2 inches. That's all I really found.
Okay, I'll double check that too, but I remember hearing 5 centimeters.
And
Thinking it was unusual.
It says 5 centimeters, inches, or it says 5 centimeters, inches, 2 inches. So it just needs to say or instead of inches.
Yep.
So,
And I sent Matt some track changes. The track changes were there were some Scribner's errors, which I'm not gonna talk about, you know, like spelling and stuff. Where it says, when we were talking about tree standards, I changed that sentence to say Bob Pease wanted to know what problem is addressed by establishing a definition of a tree. And then, farther down in the tree discussion, I wrote, Bob Pease noted the existing regulations call for replacing tree under 8 inch needs to be reviewed for the implications of adopting a definition of a tree with a specification of a minimum tree diameter for replacement. Bob Pease suggested any member who wished to take the issue back up during a meeting with another light agenda do so by sending a red line markup version of the wetlands regulations. And I corrected the word lease to license when we were talking about the haying license. And I added a sentence that said, Bob, when we were talking about encroachment, Bob Pease stated he believed the commission should take photographs of the possible encroachments at ground level before forwarding each encroachment to the town attorney for a letter to the owner. Pease said he would begin the process of obtaining such photographs, but it would take time. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the minutes, if someone is willing, with both Jeff's corrections and my corrections.
So moved.
Motion it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself.
All right, so like I did on the last one,
Yep.
I'll make the adjustments on your amendments and send them out to everybody to review.
Super.
And then, you know, if I don't get any comments back, I'll wait a few days and then send them off for publishing.
Okay, then the next thing is an appointment. Review of draft Reno and Hollis Road forest cutting plans. If no one on the commission objects, I'd like to move that to the end of the meeting. Since Gary isn't here, I think we can handle it, and we have people here that are waiting, and I don't want to keep them waiting unnecessarily. Hearing no objection, we'll go right into our first public hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent at 441 Townsend Harbor Road by Nicholas Eaton for the rebuilding of a single-family home and septic system within the buffer zone. And so, can you tell who you are and give your name and address?
Jack Maloney from Dillis and Roy. Client is Nick Eden. Kind of a difficult lot to start with. There's been some misinformation going around regarding from when we started to now. The house actually got hit by a tree last winter. Matt and I have discussed certain aspects of this project, and it is ongoing as we speak. It originally started out as a septic repair and fix the roof. It ended up being a complete tear down and rebuild. So we have done soil testing out in this area here. We have proposed a new septic system, septic tank pump chamber pumping over to it with some fill and grading here outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. The house, as you can see, sits in this area. It's brown. It has an overhang with a walkout in the back here. And then there's an existing shed with a big deck right off the edge of the lake. The existing current system is in red right here. That'll be removed, pumped, crushed, removed, and taken out of there and replaced with the new tanks. There is also, that was just brought to my attention yesterday, that there is a deck that is going to be added on to the back of this in replacement of a deck that was there prior to me getting there and doing the soil testing and topography. When I was there back in, I think it was June, the deck was already gone. Not to my knowledge that there was one in the first place. So that is being proposed. I submitted to Matt just before the meeting a 20-scale sketch showing that in blue, the new proposed deck area here. I made enough copies for all the commissioners that you could take a look at. Nope, the smaller ones, Matt.
Well, here's a large one if you want to look at that.
There was a bunch of the smaller ones that I gave to you.
Here, right here. Ah, we have them now.
There you go. So that deck is in place of the existing deck that was there that got destroyed and rotted and whatever else.
Also in your cloud, just for the members' edification, there is photographs of the pre-existing deck when the applicant had taken when the tree went through the house. It also shows the tree that had gone through the house, so you can have an idea of the damage that was caused. There also is an architect's rendering of the deck and the house, showing it in the exact same dimensions as what's shown on Mr. Maloney's box outline plan. So the applicant's pretty well established that everything he's looking to rebuild was pre-existing, and it's in the same dimensions.
I would say it took all the wind right out of my sails, because I was gonna tell you, you know, we can't approve this plan without, you know, the deck on it, and
Correct.
you're all set, so.
No, I think we still need a DEP number, though.
Yeah, we need a DEP number, and I'm sure some of the commissioners are gonna have comments about trees. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
So,
Go
no,
ahead.
so that's pretty much it in a nutshell, what we're doing. And obviously, the commission was out there on Saturday, I believe, for a site walk. So Matt said that there was gonna be some additional comments from the commission. One of them was the hay bales. Again, not knowing that there was gonna be a deck to be put in there. My little sketch shows the hay bale line going out and around the new construction area for the deck.
Usually hay bales are the limit of work. And given the amount of, I mean, it's already disturbed, you know, there's existing hay bales down about 2 or 3 feet from the water right now.
I have no
There-
idea. I haven't been to the site since I put the plan
Okay,
together.
well, okay, well, then I'll tell you from our site visit, I did my own site, I wasn't on the official site visit on Saturday, but I did my own later. There's a line of hay bales about 3 feet from the water, all the way across the front. And the whole area is disturbed right up to those hay bales. And so, I guess the commission will have to discuss that as a whole or look for a recommendation from our agent.
If I could, Mr. Chair, really
Absolutely,
quick,
go right
I
ahead.
think this will help to clarify. One of the things I had noted on the, excuse me, one of the things I had noted on the site visit to both Commissioners Rabbit and LaRouche was that right in front of the area where they were actually wattles were put, there was an area that appeared to have been caved in right on the shoreline. If you look at the pictures that I had put in the cloud that were provided to me by the applicant, and it's actually stoked my memory from last year, what that hole actually is the remnants of where the stump was that fell out from the tree.
Yep.
So that area or shoreline is gonna need to be repaired just from the tree falling out. If you look in the cloud, there is a picture that clearly shows this, so.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that that's probably why the bales were put there instead of up, because there was a very massive tree trunk down. So when you remove that tree trunk, by nature, the rest of that area is gonna get disturbed, so.
Okay.
And I'm assuming there's a huge, absolutely huge tree trunk between the foundation and the lake, and just based on its position and its size, I believe that's probably the stump
Yeah,
of the tree that fell over.
I think so.
There was one that was closer down to where the bump out is, but there were I think there's two other stumps in the pictures I have that were, so if you're standing with the lake to your back, there were two other stumps to the left.
Actually, I counted like 18 stumps on the property, but a lot of them are farther away from the water.
Yeah, so the three, well, there's one tree through the house, the other tree is still standing just off the edge of the deck, and then in this picture, it looks like there's some sort of a cooler that's sitting on top of the other stump that's probably, you know, been cut a number of years ago. But anyway, point taken.
Mr. Chairman, did you want me to share screen so I could show?
Absolutely, go
That way you
ahead.
could see pictures and,
That'd be wonderful.
let's see, let's say pics, so. Where's my Zoom.
Are there any interested parties here that would like to see a copy of this plan up close and personal?
Can you enable screen share for me?
Oh, I certainly can. Share screen. You're all set.
You have to forgive me, I've never been rapid fire on screen share, so. Now you can see the hole that I'm circling here. That's where the tree, one of the tree stumps was. Let's see. There's that tree stump you were probably talking about right
Yep.
next to the deck.
Yep.
You can see the pre-existing deck. You can see this tree going out here. It's another picture of the tree when it fell through. And another, oh, I gotta rotate the view on that, but when you turn kind of sideways, you can see that the,
Get the idea.
yeah, we all get the idea, so. Okay.
Any
Stop the
comments or
share.
questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Jack Rabbit.
thank you. I'm sorry I didn't post my pictures in, Matt. I apologize. I've had my grandkids here all week, and so in either case, yes, I had a number of questions with regard to the trees. We actually did, as reported by Matt and Mike and I went out and looked at the site and did tape measures, and essentially all those trees that were that had been cut down are within the 100-foot buffer. And I totally agree with Matt with regard to the hole that was there and would probably need to be replaced. With regard to the trees, and I do have a copy of the site map, so I'll try and describe it as best I can. When you're going down the driveway, and Paul, you can throw that back, was it? You can put that back on for them folks to see.
What was he looking for?
What are you looking for, Jack?
Okay, just going down the driveway. This is, I have some concerns. Okay, first of all, there was a large stump that looked like as you're just entering onto the property and right by the fence that was cut down, but I believe that was previously done. We have no record of that. You move down towards the water and there's a large pile of trash, as well as there were beer cans all over the property. And we would anticipate that that stuff needs to get cleaned up pretty quickly, otherwise it's going to end up in the lake. A little bit further down, as you go down, there's a tree right by the fence that's cut off about 20 feet up. And I don't recall that we had authorized that. I'm not sure if that was the one that snapped off. There were pieces that had snapped off. Two of the pieces that actually hit the house. I went out to the site and took pictures when it actually occurred. And I met with the individual who was essentially running the cutting operation. So I'm wondering if that was an approved tree or what, that was one that was noted by Matt in terms of the determination. As we move down the site, I'm counting, let's see, right by the backside fence, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 trees that are outside of the area that I believe that the septic system would be affecting. There was another tree right by the shed that was taken down. There was, Bob, I believe your count would be correct in terms of the number of trees taken, and they're substantial. And none of them, the backside of the property I'll go along with in terms of the septic system, but I don't recall that when I did get to the site, that it had actually been approved for the septic system. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I didn't find anything sitting there. So, yeah, there's quite a number of trees, and I'll send those pictures into you, Bob, for consideration. I would move that, especially the trees along that fence, that they be replaced.
I have, my name is Jeremy, deal with Systematic Consulting Services.
Excuse me, Jeremy? Jeremy, you need to wait until the chairman asks for public comment before you.
And,
Well, I just figured I'd give them the answers.
thank you.
apologize.
And that's quite all right. And when it is time for you to speak, you're gonna have to go up to the microphone so the people at home can hear you.
All right, well, let me know when that is. I can answer the questions. I actually met
Super,
Jack.
super. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I would just say, I mean, I took 8 pictures of tree stumps when I was there. You know, some of them I think are probably within our 30-foot no disturb zone. And so for those trees, we have provisions in our regulations that say, you know, there has to be replacement trees planted. I would also say that if you look at the original emergency permit, you know, it specifies a very limited amount of tree cutting, you know, not basically clear cutting the lot, which is what has happened. Those are my comments. I just realized I can't see the screen here. Of all the participants, where's Zoom? Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the public?
Absolutely.
Name and address, sir.
Jeremy Ethia with Systematic Consulting. I actually met with Jack when we had the discussion over the first trees that came down. We do have a permit that was issued by Conservation. We then applied for the other permit to make sure that the trees in the root area, everything was out of the way. It's for the new installation of the tanks. The stump that he's talking about that comes down when you first enter the property was actually where the actual septic system is going. That's the tank. The root ball on this machine was massive. So that has to be removed out of there. Those stumps will be removed out of there. As far as the replanting, that is something I'm not aware of. It's something I'm not involved in. I'm sure that'll be taken care of with the septic system, Jack, and everybody else. As far as the debris in this wonderful current time, when you call for a dumpster to clean up a whole area, and we're cleaning up a massive area, there is a waiting list for dumpsters. So we have a dumpster there. It will be cleaned up. And as far as the trees, both permits were issued by Matt.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I want to confirm that.
Jack, go ahead.
I just want to confirm that, yes, first of all, he was very, very helpful. He did show the permit numbers to us, but I couldn't find a correlation to the trees that were to be removed. Now, the septic tank is sitting in the back side of the house, and that big old tree that just you're coming down the driveway, I didn't have a problem with that. I had the problem with the ones within the 30-foot and the one that had been topped. And then there's a number of them within 50 feet that I don't believe we had actually approved it, but again, I'm waiting to talk to Matt about that particular part of it.
And to further clarify, I believe it was, and I have records of the communication if you want to look at them. I think it was on the 5th of July. I communicated directly with Mr. Eaton, and I told him essentially that, you know, I didn't have the documents on me at that point because I was away on vacation, but I noted to him that a notice of intent was going to need to be filed for the, you know, the reconstruction and any remedial work. And that's why we're here now. So, yeah, Jeremy, you're not going to know about the tree replanting because the notice of intent wasn't filed yet for it.
Correct.
So,
In general, I mean, they asked for permission over a year ago to take down
what
two
happened
trees,
was it
and
was an
happened
emergency
there.
permit because
Correct.
of what had happened with the
Correct.
house.
So we have cleared out what is there. There isn't anything coming down. The tree that is in discussion, about 20 feet tall, cut off, the reason that tree wasn't fully removed is because there's a cable line on it. That cable line establishes that there is a clear path of overhead aerial access to the telephone pole that is on the common drive. That is then left there purposely so that the clear path isn't had to be renewed for an aerial access in case there was a dispute between common drive or anything else. We always leave it clear.
And for the commission's clarification too, one of the other reasons for the emergency permit was because, you know, the follow-up emergency permit was because it was clearly showed by documented evidence, which actually I do have on my computer, was that there was asbestos in the areas where the tree went through. So you had asbestos exposure that needed to be removed immediately. There was also a recommendation from a structural engineer, that would be McKenzie Engineering out of Leominster, that that material be removed and that the structure be taken care of as soon as possible. Again, that was with the understanding and notice of intent would be filed, and that's why we're here. So,
Again, I apologize. The notice of intent, if they tell us what we're planting, we'd be more than glad, but I am not aware of that as of yet.
yeah, at this point, in your role, it wasn't a time yet.
Completely
so.
understand.
Jack, did you have anything else?
Just a quick note, Mr. Chairman. I was also told that the insurance company had insisted that all the trees around the house come down. And as shared with Matt on the site visit, we would like to see that letter from the insurance company to the applicant with regard to taking all the trees down the house.
Actually, again, to clarify that statement, what I had mentioned was that it appeared that based on what I saw from the trees, I knew there was an insurance certificate on the property and an insurance order, and that I assumed the reason why they took some of the trees out they did that were extra were because the insurance company insisted. I don't have a letter from the insurance company. If the applicant wants to get one, just to double check that, that's fine. However, on the building permit application that I downloaded was attached essentially the fact that the Woodcomb Insurance Agency was, for all intents and purposes, the co-applicant. And they're actually the co-holder of the building permit because they're supervising the construction to make sure it's done within insurance specifications. So Jack, to answer your question, I researched it after we discussed it. There is insurance company involvement, but as far as what they ordered, that would still have to be determined.
Okay.
So,
And
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I would just say that, in my opinion, as one member, I think the NOI has to be amended to show where all the stumps are of the trees that were cut down within 30 feet of the water, and to show where the water needs to be, where the wall needs to be repaired along the edge of the lake. And have a plan for that, specify, typically we specify that that work is done, during drawdown. And there's erosion controls, around the wall on the lake bed, while they're doing it. My suggestion at this point would be, that, we continue the hearing, that you locate the trees that were cut down. It's easy to go out and see the stumps, which ones are within 30 feet of the water. Because I believe there are some stumps there that are fresh cut that are within 30 feet of the water. And, we'd be applying our, our tree replacement policy. But those are my thoughts, but I'm open to anyone else's thoughts, on how we should proceed.
we still don't have a DEP number, so it would have to be continued anyway, so there's time. There's time to, straighten out the documentation to make sure that everything you need to do on there is accounted for.
You were on the site walk, Mike. You have any other
was.
comments?
I think I share some of Jack's notifications as well as yours about trees that were cut beyond the 30-foot that, we need to certainly think about replacing certainly the ones within the 30-foot. And dumpsters on order that will come. Do we know anywhere? Because the site looked a little disheveled as far as construction sites look, and it's a little bit dangerous. So I wouldn't want anyone to get hurt because they're barreling through debris. But other than that, I think I share most of everyone's concerns about this site. Thank you.
The dumpster is currently on site now.
Oh, it is?
It is there. I just have to move a piece of machinery down there to sort through the pile of what is left, and that'll be cleaned up.
Thank you, Mr. Ethier.
So I would ask that you not pull any of those stumps.
I'm not doing anything.
Super.
Stumps will come out after Matt is done with his.
Super.
That's somebody else's job.
Thank you so much. Perfect.
So in regards to continuing, we have no issue with continuing, and we'll see you once we get everything put together.
And do you have any questions or problems with any of my suggestions about, what should happen before the next hearing?
Yep. We're good.
Okay, we're good. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to continue.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second?
Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Patty Adams,
Aye.
Katie Childs. Oops,
She's
Katie
absent.
Childs not here. Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent at 535 Leominster Shirley Road by JMC/TBG Lunenburg LLC for the construction of a 372,000 square foot warehouse facility within the buffer zone. Is that you, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Holy mackerel, it's a big job.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a higher calling. Come on, it's not working. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Jack, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have a higher calling. I will be back. I did not have any problems with the site. I've got to put my kids to bed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, girls, let's go.
Jack, you might want to mute yourself, buddy.
Jack, let's mute your microphone, please.
Yeah, I certainly will. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
Well, he's putting his grandchildren to bed.
Grandchildren, not his kids.
Hey, I don't blame him. If it were me, I'd advise the higher calling too, but, you know.
All right. Sorry. For the record, Chris Aronson with Hannigan Engineering, here on behalf of JMC TBG Lunenburg LLC for the construction of a brand-new warehouse and distribution facility. The proposed project is located along the north side of Leominster Shirley Road, adjacent to the Keating Operation asphalt plants. Currently, the property, as you can see with the aerial photograph in front of you here tonight, it's primarily woodland at this point in time. Historically, this property was utilized as a part of the mining and gravel operations associated with Keating, but at this point in time, the site is essentially, for a lack of a better term, renaturalized itself as comprised mostly of brush and woodland. The commission might be noted that this property did come before the commission a couple months ago for an ANRAD to delineate certain areas subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, including a bordering vegetated wetland on the northerly portion of the property, as well as an isolated wetland along the southeasterly. Since that time, we have delineated additional wetlands on the opposite side of Leominster Shirley Road on the southerly side, which will be reviewed as part of this notice of intent filing for the overall project.
So that brings your jurisdictional zone right. If you're looking at what I'm sharing for the screen, it brings your jurisdictional zone right
You look
here.
in the back screen, Chris, you can see what the people at home are seeing,
Essentially, yes.
and on Zoom.
Yep. Okay. So as previously stated, it's the intent of the applicant to construct a brand-new warehouse distribution facility. Access to the site will be provided off of Leominster Shirley Road via 2 curb cut connections, which will create essentially a loop configuration around the building to provide access for both truck traffic as well as employee and visitor traffic as well. The general site has been laid out such that the parking areas for the employees and visitors are located along the southerly, easterly, and northerly portions of the building, with the westerly being pretty much dominated by the truck traffic operations. In addition to this, we are providing additional utility improvements, including brand new water connections with the main within Leominster Shirley Road, a new septic system that will be located on the southerly side of the building, as well as several significant improvements to the overall drainage system within this area. Currently, most of the water in this general area sheet flows into one of 3 areas, one being the isolated wetland that was approved by the commission, another being essentially Leominster Shirley Road. Currently, there is a culvert ditch system that runs almost through the center of the frontage of the property to the opposite side of Leominster Shirley, as well as the bordering wetland to the north, which has a pipe connection to a much larger wetland series on the opposite side of the train tracks. Stormwater mitigation for the project will be accomplished via utilizing several different mitigation facilities. There will be a proposed underground storage system located within the westerly park loading area, which will capture the majority of the runoff from the truck operations. This facility will have a overflow device, which will ultimately connect to a a infiltration basin, which will be located predominantly right along the frontage of Leominster Shirley Road. We have performed soil testing within this area. As you expect, it is a very coarse sand to coarse gravel material, very advantageous for infiltration. As such, we are part of the stormwater mitigation system utilizes infiltration as a primary means of mitigating the volumes and runoff from the proposed development. In addition to the infiltration to the north, we are proposing a second, much more larger detention basin along the easterly property line. This will essentially capture the remaining portions of the site, including the building itself. And again, similar to what we saw elsewhere on the site, it's underlaid by very coarse gravel and sand, again, very advantageous for infiltration. So this facility will also utilize infiltration as a means of peak rate mitigation.
Where's the water from the roof going?
Into that, the easterly basin.
Okay.
So there will be a series of roof scuppers and indoor drainage
So
systems.
that'd be this section right here?
Yeah.
There's a whole trunk line dedicated to just purely roof drain runoff. So ultimately, that all gets into there. Relative to the buffer zones on the property, the wetland resource area is located on the property itself. We are respecting the 50-foot buffer zone. So we are keeping work outside of that area as much as humanly possible, with the majority of the work within the 100-foot buffer zone being dedicated to return to grade slopes and cut slopes for the perimeter access drive around the site, which will be loam and seeded upon permanent stabilization.
Yeah, you can see that right here
Correct.
in the isolated wetland. I hope you don't mind me doing this. I figured
No,
it'd save you a
perfect.
little trouble.
Excellent.
And then with the exception to that rule, we are requesting waivers from the actual 30 and 50-foot buffer zone portion of the regulations, primarily associated with the installation and construction of the roadway improvements along Leominster Shirley Road. We do need to expand that area to the north onto our property a little bit further in order to allow for proper truck and traffic management improvements to the area as well.
So the places where you're looking for waivers are related to improvements to the road?
Correct. And if I can point it out to the commission, I can at least show you why we're looking at this.
Super.
So as the commission might see, we have a 30-foot buffer associated with what we're calling the D series, so through here. The only work that's going to be proposed within that area will be potentially some additional utility connections to the telecommunications and the gas lines that are located in this area. The 50-foot work will be essentially to allow for the actual curb cut into the site itself and limited to minor grading and some additional pavement areas in this area.
Am I correct that most of the 30-foot it's actually within the road itself because it's on the opposite side?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you look, follow my cursor, here's the 30-foot line.
And because to me,
And then this
when the first part of the 30-foot no disturbance zone is already asphalt, I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Where's your restoration plan? No, I'm just kidding.
In addition to that, there's an additional series just to the east of that, the E series. Again, that work will be associated with connection to the water main within the actual roadway system, as well as any potential telecommunication and gas lines. We're still coordinating that with the utility providers, so that's still an ongoing project and upon itself. And there will be also some additional work associated with the culvert I previously mentioned underneath Leominster Shirley Road. As part of this, we're expanding that pavement, so we're proposing to extend essentially that pipe further into our property with a brand new drop inlet system that will capture the runoff coming off of the road and allow it to continue to move along its way to the opposite side of the road. And relative to the 50-foot buffer zone work, again, that would be associated with the widening of the pavement in order to facilitate traffic, as well as some minor grading and loaming and seeding landscaping for the actual infiltration basin along the southerly side as well. Besides that, that's the general gist of the project. If there's any questions from the commission, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, just so the commission knows, if you actually look at your Zoom screens, this is the DEP database for the notice of intent. You can see they received it actually on the 29th of July. And there is they've issued it a number, but there is no comment, and the DEP number is 208-1238. And there's no comment on the plans. And they've had it since the 29th, so.
May I also note through the chair, we are currently also going through planning board approval as well. And as part of that, the project is reviewed for both general engineering practice as well as stormwater management by a peer review, Graves Engineering. We did get their comments back late last week.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
And for the most part, it was mostly typographical and more clarification purposes relative to the general site and engineering plans. The only modifications that were requested relative to the actual drainage system was the extension and raising of the berms on the infiltration basins, just to give it a little bit of extra freeboard, so extra capacity within the basins.
Are those in the buffer zone?
Just the infiltration basin along the southerly side of the property.
Okay.
But for reference, that increased by 6 inches.
So that won't change any of the outline on this plan at all?
No,
Can you send me a copy of the Graves report so I can put it into the file, please?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to review the Graves thing, they're extremely thorough.
Yeah, Jeff is amazing.
Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Is it fair to ask what the storage?
You can ask, he doesn't have to answer, as
Okay,
do it in the wetlands.
Okay, just curious.
To be determined.
I'm sorry?
It's still being determined.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
What about any increasing traffic as a result of this?
That's a planning board issue.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Both here and at home.
Jack's still tucking his grandchildren in.
Yes.
Then I suggest, we'll continue it. It sounds, because I'd like to review the Graves thing, but if there's not going to be any significant changes to the plan but it's my understanding also you missed the planning board meeting because of a lack of quorum.
Correct. So we are pushed to, I believe, Monday's meeting.
And so, but by the time we meet again, you will have had a chance to meet with them and get an idea where you stand with them, I would think?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, yes. And so, if you're comfortable moving forward, at the next meeting, we could, take a look at that. So, is there anybody else that wants any additional information other than the Graves report? Look for a motion to continue until, I think it's the 1st?
September 1st.
September 1st. Someone speak.
So moved.
All right, Jeffrey, do we have a second?
I second.
All right, roll call vote. Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you on the 1st. Continue public hearings pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request for a determination by Jose Vasquez for work at 52 West Street will be held. Work proposed is the installation of a swimming pool.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to get this one out of the way, I have his plans. If you could just give me a second here.
Sure.
And I believe I did go over those with you really quickly on the phone. Or maybe I showed them to you one day when you were in the office.
I looked at them in the office, but we gotta do it at a meeting.
Yep.
In front of the commission.
Right, no, I just,
Public.
so, just give me 1 second here. Like I said, my rapid fire skills on sharing are still to be utilized here. Okay. So I asked the applicant to actually give me a plan based on a scale, based on a drawing. So what he did was he went out and we had measured where the wetland was. This actually, where it says wetlands, is an accurate a representation of where the wetlands are on the plan. Where the pool is drawn in is the measurements are accurate. The area that he is representing is accurate. If the commissioners that came out on the sidewalk recall, this area where I'm waving my cursor is West Street. There is the house, there was a shed in the front, and then a little area that was like a square-shaped yard, and that's exactly where the pool was going. I had the pool maker flag it out so I could view it. I redid the measurement myself because his initial measurement was 140 feet to the wetland, and that was incorrect because he was utilizing the actual hillside. And as you guys know, buffer zone measurement is a two-dimensional measurement, so it takes the topography away. So the closest point the pool comes to the wetland is 72 feet.
Yikes.
So it's out of the 50-foot zone. There's not going to be a major amount of excavation going on over there. And this area where you see the wording, I can zoom on it a little bit more, is where they're putting their, they call it silt sock, but it's wattles. So they're going to put wattles here and then basically work in this area. So I don't have an issue with recommending a negative determination number 3 for this because it's in the outer part of the buffer zone and not within 50 feet.
Any comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? Ooh, I better pull up my participant list again.
Yeah, there's no hand raising going on, so.
Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to issue a negative determination.
I motion that.
So Patty has moved for a negative determination. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Second, roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
And I for myself. All right, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. And the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a requested determination by Greg and Tina Kroll for work at 398 Sunset Lane will be held. Work proposes for the replacement of 316 feet of retaining wall, demolition of a dwelling with a reconstruction of a replacement with modifications to the driveway, and boat ramp. Hi, Greg.
Hello, everybody.
Aye.
Greg.
Greg Roy, Dilson Roy. Thank you for your time this evening. So we were here a month ago to open the public hearing, and the commission asked us to go back and take a look at a few items. We also took an opportunity to take a look at a few additional items over and above what the commission asked us to do. So,
Excuse me, Greg, just so you know, I am sharing that plan on the Zoom screen as well.
great, thank you. So and we issued a cover letter that was addressed to the commission and dated August 12th. Do you all have that in front of you? Or
We don't have it in front of us, but I'm sure you'll refresh our memory.
Well, I sure will. So I'm just going to roll down through. So some of these are items that we've added in working with the applicant, and others are directly as related to the commission. So item number 1, we relocated the existing stairs on the southerly side to the east where the existing boat ramp was located. So there was a set of stairs right in this location here, and we're proposing to close those off. We were going to keep the stairs in that location. We're now intending to just relocate those stairs to the location where the existing boat ramp is. So there's that change there.
Can't hear him.
Can't hear me?
Is that,
You need to pick up the microphone.
Oh, okay.
carrying around with you? Can you hear him when he talks into the microphone, Joe?
Pardon?
Can you hear him when he's speaking into the microphone?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about that. So I'll just say that again. We're proposing to relocate the stairs from the existing location, which is in this area here, We'll close that in with the wall, and we'll relocate the stairs to the location where the existing boat ramp is. That change, we were intending to keep this grade, the boat ramp grade, the same as it is today and just seed it. But we'll now be elevating that section, which is going to actually create a little bit more floodplain fill. So we've actually mitigated that by pulling the wall in one section right here, moving the wall, giving back a little bit to the lake, I guess. So we're going to be moving the retaining wall in a few feet to create that additional compensation volume that we have, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. The applicant wants to, the U-shaped dock, which is a seasonal dock, that was permitted, I think, a year or so ago. He would like to relocate that to this location, to the location where the existing permanent dock is located. And again, just to remind everybody, we're actually proposing to remove the permanent dock and all of the concrete footings and things. So we would like to relocate that dock to this location here. And then I may be getting ahead of myself, but
Will the new dock be concrete or?
No. So this is the U-shaped dock is a seasonal dock that's floating. We're just going to move that to here. So we're just going to relocate it. So literally just shifting it down. Instead of putting it in next year here, we're going to put it in next year in this location.
Okay.
After the permanent dock is removed.
So removing the permanent dock, does that contribute to new floodplain volume?
Well, I guess technically speaking, it would with the concrete, but we didn't include those in the. So yeah, there's two concrete supports that will be coming out of the lake.
Okay.
So,
But it's not a big deal.
yeah, it's negligible. We didn't.
Okay,
we
thank
didn't. We didn't.
Never mind.
We didn't take. We're not seeking credit for that.
All
So
right.
that's a bonus.
Okay.
So, but thank you. And then actually, the applicant would like to put an additional seasonal floating dock in the location of this leg of the U-shaped dock. So basically, in another way, we'd like two docks on the property, one U-shape and one linear, but instead of how it exists today, which is one seasonal U-shaped dock and one permanent linear dock, they will both now be seasonal and removable. But they're both in the same configuration, same size as what exists there today. We're just flipping them and making the linear dock seasonal, so if that makes sense. We have added clarifying note to just clarify that we are intending to remove the permanent dock and including in that to physically remove the concrete support posts that are in the lake. Discussed with the commission last time was the addition of 10 native plantings, native trees. So in green here, not green on your plan, I don't think, but we are proposing to replant 10, and we're calling them deciduous trees. There was a little discussion last time about what type of species to plant. So we've left that open. We'd like to just we'd like the commission to give us the opportunity to select perhaps some ornamentals, perhaps some maples or oaks or things, and just kind of diversify that. But we're committing to a native deciduous tree. So
Can I make a suggestion?
I'm perfectly happy to take suggestions.
He's like, oh, no, he's going to make a suggestion. When you examine the tree replacements, because, I mean, if you look at the plans we got here, you can see you've got an extensive amount of replacement vegetation that you're proposing.
Yeah.
You know, the trees, the larger diameter trees that you're looking at, probably want to make them 10 feet off center to allow for a crown. The other thing is, some of these areas that aren't near the water, some of the more internal areas, look at some type of a flowering tree that could double up as a pollinator.
Yeah, I think they'd like to do that. Some flowering and things. So something that won't get as tall either.
Because, you know, between the Littleton guide that Jack talked about that I reviewed and a whole bunch of other guides I've been reviewing, a lot of your tree standards.
With lots of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of your tree standards they're looking for pollinators on interior plantings now.
Okay.
So that would be helpful.
I think that jives with what the Crolls would like to do, so I think that's good. Thank you. So in the spirit of revegetation, we had talked about that we're looking to revegetate a naturalized strip immediately on top of the wall after we replace the wall. We had initially just indicated that we were going to do that right in the location where we're proposing to take the pine trees down. The Crolls would actually like to wrap that all the way around the entire property. So we're proposing a naturalized strip on the top of the wall.
That's what's highlighted in gray on my screen?
Yep, it's in gray, and it goes all the way around, all the way to where the proposed steps would be.
So is that going to interfere with their access to their docks?
Well, I think we'd have breaks in that
Yeah,
barrier for
okay,
dock access and things, so we didn't necessarily capture some of that, but that would be planted with, we've actually diversified the plantings. We had a little bit of a discussion about whether or not we should use
Pepper bush,
pepper bush.
my favorite.
We kept some of that there, but what we ended up doing was adding a few additional species in there as well to diversify that. So I think you find that the density of the pepper bush that we're proposing on the plan isn't as dense as we had it before. We still have a few in there. Sorry, Matt.
I still disagree with the pepper bush. The chairman and I are going to in a friendly manner, disagree on that. I consider pepper bush, even though it's not on the list, every time I see it planted, it takes over.
Yeah.
So if you're going to plant the pepper bush, I'm just giving you the heads up, you really need to keep that under control. Because if it's let go, it's just going to take everything over.
So anyway, that was a change to the plan. Let's see. There was we're proposing a small ornamental fence that we were proposing along that stretch. We're still proposing it, but we flipped it to the other side right along the wall side, and that again would go all the way around the whole property. So that's one change.
Can you give a little more description of the ornamental fence? Is there a detail on that somewhere or something?
I didn't give you a detail, but we certainly could.
Is it like a goose fence? What is it? Yeah, it's a goose fence.
Yeah,
Score.
yeah,
You're gonna want that.
Major issue.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like a little 2-footer.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question about the irrigation box. We had a manhole shown here. That's actually an irrigation box, so we just relabeled that. It's just a clerical error issue. We had failed to put sedimentation control barriers on the plan, so we've added those along the base of the wall when that will be constructed. So again, just to remind everybody,
detail.
the lake draws down and leaves quite a bit of lake bottom. So we intend to do this, of course, during the drawdown. So we would put erosion control barriers right along the base of the wall while we're building that portion of the wall. Once that's in, the balance of the site is pretty flat. So I didn't see the need to put another barrier up on the top to support construction of the house. But perhaps if the commission so chooses, perhaps a condition in there or something, I think if needed, we could certainly look to add something if we have an issue. But I think it's pretty flat through there, so I don't see a real big erosion potential. We had to switch to 2-sheet plan set, so you now have a 2-sheet plan set because we couldn't fit the details on the sheet. We were asked to put the floodplain calculations on the plan, so we did do that right here. And again, those are updated to include a small amount of additional floodplain fill in this location, and then additional floodplain mitigation that'll occur. Again, most of the floodplain mitigation will occur when we ramp this section down, but we're also adding a little bit additional in that location there. And we just from a cleanup standpoint, we did add a locus map on the plan for clarity. I think that was all.
So from your compensatory standpoint, your outline on square footage is identical, but you're increasing the actual volumetric storage.
Correct. Yeah, we have a little bit more, plus the supports in the lake. But I didn't. Yeah, but we do have a little bit more volume that we're giving back.
If I might ask a question, Mr. Chair, really
Go
quick.
ahead.
What's the red line, the red dotted line on the plan?
This one?
Yep,
That's the floodplain.
okay.
Yeah.
Just so, people viewing the Zoom can understand
Yep.
what this red dotted line is going through.
Yeah, that's the floodplain. And, that's of the elevated flood, so that's the 100-year floodplain elevation as published by FEMA. It's a controlled outlet structure on the lake. I don't think we've ever seen the water get to that elevation, but be that as it may, that's the published elevation, so.
I'd hate to see what the Catacoomog would look like over the Shirley Dam if it was that high.
Right. I think we'd have bigger problems than, yeah. So,
Any-
that's all.
Comments or questions from members of the commission? Jack Rabbit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you. Hey, Greg, with regard to is there going to be any soil mounding? You going to be building piles of soil and hills or anything like that, around the house when you're doing that work? And
There would be when they excavated the foundation.
And the reason why I ask, I suspect that this house is going to take a while. It's probably going to continue past the drawdown period, and you're not going to have any erosion controls in there.
Yeah. So, okay, so we could definitely, we could commit to providing erosion controls around spoil piles during the foundation excavation for sure.
Okay.
And I think those would be fairly, relatively short-lived, but we could certainly, we could certainly do that. That's a good point.
Okay, thank you.
You just reserve a section of wattles that you can jump?
Yeah, and just
That should do the trick, just
Yeah.
reserve some length of wattle that you can
have some
jump
wattles
from.
on site, and we'll just, when there's a spoil pile on site for, when they excavate the foundation, we'll make sure we have.
What else do you have, Jack?
No, that'd be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? Do we have a DEP number?
We do have a DEP number, as you can see on the screen.
Yep.
DEP number is 208-1234. It itemizes the impacts that Mr. Roy went into, and the only comment was that we should show the type and locations of erosion and sedimentation controls, which he has addressed.
Yes, he has. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve this NOI with the condition that erosion control be provided around the spoils piles.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Tricia had beaten you to it, Jack.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Mass Pleasant LLC will be held. Work proposed is construction of a 6-lot subdivision, roadway, utilities, and a proposed wetlands crossing at 101 Pleasant Street.
Paul Grazowitz is here. He's on Zoom remote.
Okay, Paul, you want to share your screen? I allowed screen sharing.
Sure.
And bring us up to speed as to why we continued it and what we have to think about tonight.
Okay, what we, let's see, I guess I'm a little slower than Matt on the sharing here. Can you see that?
Not yet. Okay, yep, here we are.
You're still faster than me.
So we did a site walk after the meeting a month ago, and then we met with the planning board, and we've taken care of all of their concerns. The only thing dangling was their questioning of the retaining wall within the right-of-way. So what we did before the last planning board meeting, we came up with a layout that had a 35-foot right-of-way. So we reduced the right-of-way from 50 to 35. where we have the retaining walls at the beginning of the project, and that would allow us to keep the walls on private property. The planning board didn't have a quorum a week and a half ago, so we couldn't have that discussion. And impacts with our wetlands permitting is, depending on how they react to this, if they're in favor of this, it doesn't affect the functionality of the roadway at all. It simply lets us get the retaining walls and preserve some wetlands, you know, keep it under 5,000 square feet. If I have to put the walls, if I got to put them outside of 50 feet, we're going well over 6,000 square feet of wetland loss. So that's the issue that I need to continue to get an answer on our waiver request with the planning board this Monday. Hopefully they'll have a full board there and we can take care of this last item. We've gone through all the graves and stuff. Everything's good. It's just down to this one issue with them. The other thing I did want to ask the commission, there was a discussion about trees and a tree listing or a tree survey for our project. So I wanted to get some clarification, so that the next week or so I can get that tree survey. I was thinking you're interested in the trees that are going to be lost within the 30 to 50. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the trees that are, the trees within the 30-foot no-touch zone. If you take any of those down, there is a tree replacement standard that you're going to have to account for within our regulations. I wasn't present at the site walk, but my understanding was that one of the commissioners wanted you to at least give some type of accounting for the trees that were going to be removed within 30 to 50, because the commission wanted to analyze the impacts on that. That was just my understanding, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm going to lose some at the beginning of the road, and of course, my wetlands replication areas are within, you know, there's going to be tree loss in there. So, and then we'll do the 30 to 50. Now, as far as trees to be counted, we were discussing diameters a little bit and never came to any consensus. So I'd like to get that figured out.
All I can tell you is what our current regulations say, is that if the tree has a diameter of less than 8 inches, you know, it's included in the replacement schedule.
So it's 8 inches and up?
No, less than 8 inches.
Oh, it's less than 8 inches.
Less than 8 inches. And so I think there's some ambiguity there, because that means it's anywhere from 0 to 8 inches. And I frankly think we need to revisit that regulation. But that is what our present regulation says. So I don't know if anybody here, and the member who was asking for those isn't here tonight. Jack is our tree hero. Maybe you have some comments, Jack?
I am a tree hugger, for sure, and...
Hero, Jack, hero.
Hero. I like tree hugger. I like hugging my trees. Anyway, Rich had requested that. Basically, they were just looking for a kind of a matrix of, you know, something to 0 to whatever number of inches, as other people have come forward with us, you know, 0 to 6, 6 to 12, and whatever. Give us a general understanding of what we're taking down and what we're losing as a result of this. Okay. And I believe that's as far as we've gone, Bob. And but Rich did propose it, and of course we're all advocates of that because we like trees.
You know, Paul, in the end, if we have a full board, you'll need 4 votes. You know, and so, and Rich isn't here we didn't hear this last, we continued this last meeting, right?
Yeah,
We did.
continue.
So I think he's only missed one public hearing, so he could still participate in this.
Yeah, he just have to watch the video and fill out a Mullins form, and you
can
have
miss-
somebody looking to.
You can miss one public hearing and still participate, you know, if you watch it on TV and read the minutes.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to make a decision, you know. I mean, I frankly don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you as chairman.
Okay.
I can't speak for the commission. I can only speak for myself. And if anybody else has any input for Paul here, I'd love to hear it.
Well, just going into the regulations on the tree replacement, under our current regulations that were approved recently, in the 30-foot no-touch zone is where the BHD, the diameter is considered within the 0 to 30-foot zones, okay? So under our regulations, within the 30-foot no-touch zone, anything 8 inches in diameter, using the BHD method, is one replacement tree. Anything equal to 8 to 20 inches is 2 replacement trees. Anything greater than 20 inches is 3 replacement trees. So that's what the regulations basically are saying.
Right.
And that's within 0 to 30. There is no regulation for any type of survey or accounting within 30 to the 100-foot buffer zone.
Mr. Chairman, that's assuming that we would allow their elimination of those trees. So I believe that Rich was asking, tell us how badly that 0 to 50 is going to be taken apart. And so that was the basis for establishing some sort of a full understanding of what was going to occur in that area.
Oh, I don't necessarily disagree. I'm simply just reciting what our regulatory authority is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul, I don't blame you if you're still not clear, because I'm not clear.
Well, I'll figure something out. I mean, you know, we've got saplings and then trees. I mean, you know, I'll just count them all and,
Super. But I would urge you to take and distinguish between which ones are between 0 and 30 feet from the wetlands, and which ones are between 30 and 50, because, you know, we have a regulation that talks about the replacement of trees between 0 and 30. We don't have any regulation that talks about the replacement between 30 and 50. So I would urge you, if you're gonna do that, to
Yes.
distinguish, you know, which ones are where.
okay,
Mr. Chairman?
we'll do.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that, but I believe when we went in the walk, are we taking out very many trees, Paul, within that 0 to 30?
Well, no, we're losing a couple right up at the entrance.
Okay,
You know, there's probably several at the entrance, but once we get into the site, the only place we're doing things within the 0 to 30 is the wetland replication areas.
okay.
And there's a lot of trees in those areas.
Right.
Now, in the wetland replication area, Paul, and forgive me if I hadn't asked this question earlier, are you going around the existing trees that are there?
You know, I've got some awful big ones in there that, a lot of big pines in there, actually, that I don't see how I'm gonna change the grade enough for those things. I mean, there are some that I'm sure we're gonna be able to save, but I think a lot of those big pines are gonna come out of there.
All right, then we definitely have to have a tree accounting in the wetland replication area,
Yeah,
so we can figure out exactly what canopy is going to be left and what would need to be restored for canopy. So, you know, under our regulation, that's what the 0 to 30 in wetland replication is for. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go out and take a closer study of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
all right, thanks.
Paul, you have any other comments or any questions for us tonight?
No, I believe that's it.
Does any of the other commissioners have questions or comments tonight?
No, just thank you, Paul, for spending time with us. I appreciate that.
And so I'm looking for a motion to continue until September 1st with the hope that he'll have some clarity from the planning board by then about whether they're going to allow this retaining wall to be that close to the road.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, so motion and seconded.
Second?
Roll call vote, Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself. We have, thank you. We have a lot of other agenda items, but I'd like to find out what our other guests who are physically present are here for.
These people are here for 23 Cove Road. They're the owners of the property.
And so, with the commission's permission, I'd like to move straight to that agenda item, which is enforcement on 23 Cove Road, so that these people can go home.
Thank you.
Evening, ladies, gentlemen.
Hi.
Robert Coloni, Trace Coloni, 23 Cobble Road. I want to apologize ahead of time, I do speak loudly, I have a hearing impairment, so...
No, and that's fine, because we need to make sure that you're heard over the cable.
All
what I said.
right. So I'm not actually yelling, it's because I'm 50% deaf.
Well, you know, I have a T-shirt I'll loan you. It says, "I'm not yelling, I'm Italian."
Well, that would apply as well, Matt, so I'm okay with that. I think that we, obviously, during the last meeting, we had Rob Bowen represent me, but since then, I've had several conversations with both Oxbow and Matt. And after speaking to Matt earlier this week, I agreed, as well as my wife, that it made sense to come in this evening and have a conversation to try to clear up any confusion and make some recommendations. So that's why my wife and I are here tonight.
Super.
So, where would you like to start? Because I'm not sure how this goes. This is obviously the first hearing I've appeared at, so I'm going to need a little coaching.
So why don't we start with a report from our conservation administrator about, you know, why this is an enforcement action, have him summarize it, and then maybe some of the members can add their observations and comments, and then we can go from there. How's that?
Works for me.
All right.
Well, I mean, the original started based on a report from one of our commissioners, and I went out and took a look at it from the roadway. And for all intents and purposes, I sent a notice of non-compliance out because there was an area basically up to the edge of where work had taken place, you know, alteration of vegetation, placement of what looked like to be a shed to me, but it was later clarified by Mr. Galone that it's a greenhouse, some raised beds. They had Oxbow come in, take a look at the area. I walked the area with Oxbow. They did a whole bunch of soil evaluation. They showed pretty conclusively that there was no wetlands filling at all.
Really?
So, yeah, there's no wetlands filling on that property. It was very conclusive. I eyewitnessed the soil testing. Scott Smyers has been doing soil evaluations for wetlands for like 35 years. So, I mean, I've got experience in it, obviously myself, so I saw what the soils were like. So there is definitely no wetland filling. It's essentially buffer zone, 30-foot no-touch zone work. So we have to work out a scenario to come up with some type of mitigation, whether we do it with a retroactive NOI or we work with the Galonis under enforcement and do it that way.
And so, as a result of Oxbow's work out there, do we have a current wetlands delineation?
There is a current wetland delineation. I believe Mr. Galoni actually has a drawing of it.
Yes, so I do, and I'll certainly give that to you. I just want to make one point, is that I kind of didn't give Scott a lot of time to prepare for tonight's meeting because he was working on the September 1st schedule, so I don't have the formal report yet, but he did commit to me that he'd have it to me by the end of this week.
Okay.
And he was very thorough in his soils evaluation, so I have
Not
no
as fancy as all these guys that were in here, you know, I don't have big drawings, and I'm kind of a hack, so, Matt, want me to give this to you, or?
Yeah, I'll just pass it around. So what you see here, Bob, is you can see the blue dotted area are the individual wetland flags.
Okay.
And then you have, I'm figuring out, I put my glasses on. You have, the yellow is your 30, and the blue is your 50, and the orange is your 100. So that is the current existing wetland delineation.
And so these wetland flags exist in the field?
They do exist in the field. They're
Okay.
brand new, and you can see them right off the road.
And where is
The
the,
work took place over here.
okay. Well, there you
I
have
believe
it.
there was a tree removed as well.
Yep. Yeah, and, you know, these aerial photographs, they show, you know, what trees were there in 2014, what trees were there in 2019, you know.
Yeah, I've actually got pictures of those going back as far as 2005. It's
Yeah, it
kind of hard to tell from 600 feet in the air, but
It also shows that the tree removed, the major tree was outside the 50, actually. It was just outside the 50, between the 50 and the 100. You could see it from the aerial.
Okay.
So there's nothing, it doesn't look like there were any trees within the 30-foot zone that were removed at all. Based on that aerial photo, Mr. Smyer's delineation, and what's on site now. So that's actually a positive for both us and the landowners as far as coming up with some type of mitigation plan. We don't have to worry about the replacement regulations.
Has Matt explained to you about our 50-foot no structure zone?
yeah, there's a little bit of confusion on that in regards to new structures, because I was a little confused, because we've been in the house for 27 years. So I was asking, and Matt helped clarify that with me early in the week as far as what was grandfathered and what wasn't.
If it was there in 2000, when did we pass the no structures, or they passed?
The original no structure zone was in 2011.
2011.
Right.
So anything before 2011 is grandfathered as far as structures go. And clearly your house was there before 2011.
Everything was there except for the greenhouse before 2011, yes.
And in actual fact, there's a 2-year statute of limitations, so, but, you know, your greenhouse / shed is within the 50-foot no structure zone, and I believe it's also within the 30-foot no disturbance zone. So, do you have someplace else in the property you could put it?
No denial, you're absolutely right. I know exactly where it's at. The problem with that section of my yard is there's a hill that comes
Yep.
down. So the 50-foot, as you can see by those lines,
Yep.
goes right through the center of my house. And the 100-foot goes almost 90% of the whole
Right
length
onto
of
the
my
road.
property.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of options as far as where I can put it, which is the reason why it is where it was. But had I known now what I known then, I probably would have tried to locate it somewhere else. And it also, from my perspective, you know, it'd be very difficult to take it down and rebuild it and be very costly. I'm not saying that's not on the table, but what I'd like to do is make a couple other suggestions that I hope would appease.
Suggest away.
So there's about 9 foot of clearance from the side of the greenhouse to the actual delineation of the wetlands.
He's correct, yeah.
Okay? And what I had planned all along before this whole thing transpired is I was going to line that section of property with bushes or hedges, something native, so it was aesthetically appeasing, in addition to the 8 rhododendrons that I've already planted along the road to deal with some of the road runoff as well, to help kind of mitigate any issues with runoff. The 2 trees that Matt is referring to that are outside of the no-touch zone, I had always intended to plant native fruit trees to replace those. I just didn't get that far before I got the letter,
Yep.
which kind of scared me a little bit, so at Matt's request, I just stopped doing everything until we could clear this up.
I like the idea of the fruit trees because, you know, the pollinator thing I discussed earlier, that might be a bit.
Well, as a side note, I am looking at putting beehives in, and if you're looking at drawing pollinators, it's just lemongrass. When you put lemongrass around your property, it draws in the hummingbird, you know, the birds, the bees and whatnot, because they're attracted to it. Sorry, not that you asked that question, but
Well, I mean, unless you're me, then you like to attract wasps.
I got the same button.
Comments or questions from, or suggestions from commissioners? Jack?
Of course, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think that where you're looking at a greenhouse, and if you look at its foundation, you know, it really is dropping some sticks on the ground and wrapping some, putting some stone in there. you know, and if you were to go after the no structure zone, then you'd end up having to pull out his beds, his raised beds. Where he's offering to do some plantings behind that greenhouse, you know, we're kind of close, and you know, it doesn't look like the structure anchored, so I'm kind of leaning, I don't know where to lean, actually. But I do know that you've got, hey, Mr. Bowman, you've got some equipment. Looks like your John Deere. I wish you'd bought a Kubota. It would have been orange, I would have liked it more. But looks like you got a John Deere back there along your property line. And at the same time, it looked like you're parking your sled. In that, I clearly, you know, occasionally you leak a little fluid and things like that, and you're pretty darn close. I would certainly ask that you move them up towards the shed and get them away from that 30-foot zone. The other question I would have is that there was and maybe perhaps I'm wrong, but your property also extends quite a bit further back up to the intersecting road. Was it South Road? Is that, no, not South Road.
Sandy Cove?
Sandy Cove.
Sandy Cove, into Sandy Cove, and you actually own up to Sandy Cove. And it looked like there was quite a bit of filling going on with regard to that wetland area. There were some trees down, there were some leaves piled in, it looked like there was a filling activity. Perhaps I'm wrong, Mr. Bowie, but if that is your property, it's being filled, maybe not by you, but somebody, but you're kind of liable.
So if I may respond to some of his concerns?
Jack, I'm going to give the gentleman whose name I've forgotten.
Bob, it's fine.
Bob. I'm going to give Bob a chance to respond to what you said so far, and then we'll come back to you, Jack, if you have more, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you can't forget that name.
No, I can't.
Bob.
So a couple of things, Jack, just to address you, to answer some of those questions. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
So number one is you're right. There is no solid foundation with the greenhouse. But what you can't see is that underneath the greenhouse, I have laid fabric down so that water can still filter through it, but the weeds would grow up out of the ground there. And then put sand down and gravel so that anything I was doing within the greenhouse, at least any water from the plants would be at least filtered before it actually hit the lower ground. That then acts as the actual natural filter going into the wetlands. I did the same thing with the raised beds. One thing to mention is I do work for a green company. I work for an energy storage company. So I wanted to take those precautions just so that there wasn't any impact on the environment whatsoever. You are correct in saying that there is some filling and whatnot going on up the road. For the 27 years that I've been on that property, we have allowed our neighbors to dump their leaves there because they've had no alternative in regards to their own property of where they could dump them.
And they did it prior to us.
And they did it prior to us moving or buying that property. Since receiving the notice, there are now no trespassing, no dumping signs that have gone up to stop that from occurring.
And you've spoken to the neighbors.
And I have also personally spoken to the neighbors and explained to them they can no longer dump on that section of my property.
Right. There's also some trees down on that, Bob.
Yeah, I think if you look at the drawing that Matt has, that the trees that you're referring to is actually, they're only about 10 feet from the road, which is outside the 100-foot buffer. And the ones that are down are dead, and you can see that by observing them as well.
He's correct, Jack. The trees that are down are out of the buffer zone, based on the wetland delineation.
Okay. Yeah, then we should be holding somebody to clear that out.
Well, I mean,
Sorry,
if I
go ahead,
may.
Matt. Nope, go ahead.
At one point, when I was talking to Mr. Smyers, and I can continue this with the Galonis, is that I was gonna have DPW go out, take a look at the side part of the road, see what we could do to stop a lot of the stuff that's washing in from washing in now, and maybe work to address that corner. I mean, we could probably still do that, and that way they could help you out.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to I haven't had an opportunity to talk to you about that, but there was a few things I wanted to go over with you, so that we could have a conversation.
Well, we probably should go over on site with DPW, because I think a lot of that might involve them.
Yeah. Well, almost all of it's going to involve them, but some of it also involves Hickory Hills as well.
Right, but as far as Hickory Hills goes, we can work on that later, but right now, I'd like to talk to the DPW super
Agreed.
have him come out on site, and then he can meet with us out there.
Yep.
Rob's a really good guy to work with. He's a registered professional engineer with the Commonwealth. He can look at a site and
Talking about the
see.
gentleman that runs the place down on Chase Hill Road, is that Chase Hill Road or Chase Street or whatever?
Chase, yeah.
Yeah.
Our DPW.
I've actually met him a couple times, he's a good
Yeah,
guy.
he,
He's a good guy.
I mean, he can look at a piece of land and see things that I can't. So, I mean, you know, he's a good guy he's a good resource to have on site.
Yeah, I would welcome that, Matt, and yes, I'm certainly open to that as well. So that wouldn't be an issue either.
Okay.
To me, a question that has to be addressed tonight is, are we going to continue to handle this as an enforcement action, or are we going to ask the applicant to file an NOI? And I'm looking for input from the commission on that, and I see Mr. Abbott has his hand up.
Okay, so just a continuation. Bob, I noticed you on your truck, you've got a really nice backhoe sitting there. And I would think that you could, on the end of the Cove Road, you could potentially remove the material that's been and invite your neighbors to come over and haul it into their own backyards. But basically, I'd be interested in the restoration of that particular area. And the point of the greenhouse and the flower boxes, theoretically, you know, those flower boxes are structures. If we were to consider the greenhouse in its current state, it's a little larger flower box, maybe, if we decide to accept the flower boxes, because they too are within the 30 feet.
So Jack, thank you for those comments. The thing I'm looking for input on right now, at this moment in time, is can we continue to handle this as an enforcement action, or should we ask that they file an NOI unless our conservation administrator has a recommendation there?
Right now, my recommendation is to continue it as an enforcement action and give both the Galonis and myself some flexibility to work with DPW, because we might be able to revise a scope or come up with some type of a justification for a replanting plan and a potential waiver for the location of the greenhouse. Then we can file the appropriate documents. But until we have a firm scope, filing an NOI is just going to trigger deadlines that we're not going to be able to meet right now. I mean,
Good with that?
I have no issues with that whatsoever.
Okay.
this just gives you some flexibility of
Matt, I
movement
get
right
it.
now.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to think about relocating a structure that's entirely within the no disturbance zone and in the no structure zone and 6 feet from the wetlands. You know, I think you have to, you know, work with Matt on that, and, you know, it's just speaking for myself. I'm just one member of the commission. So, but I'm good for now with going with what Matt recommended, you know, continuing this as an enforcement action, so, you know, you don't have to put an ad in the paper, you don't have to pay a fee, you don't have to get the DEP involved.
You're not going to get me in trouble with my wife for spending more money?
So, do you need any further direction from us tonight? Is there questions that you wanted
Really
answered?
not for the board. I'm obviously going to have follow-up with Matt,
Yep.
and I'll have to spend some time with him to...
And so this will
DPW and
this-
whatnot to make sure that what I'm doing is acceptable.
This will continue on our agenda as under the enforcement action section. Unfortunately, enforcement always comes at the very bitter end of the meeting, you know, which is why I jumped it over tonight, because there's nobody else here. I mean, but it could happen, you know, in a future meeting that there'll be tons of people here for all the other stuff, and you'll be here a long time.
Well, if
Just-
you give me your digits, you can just give me a heads up. If it's an
Yep.
empty room, I'll show up. If it's
Yep.
not, I'll...
And also, like, the first meeting of the month is always Zoom, so you're at home anyway. Okay, it's only the second meeting of the month, and you have the option for the second meeting of the month, you know, to Zoom in also, if you'd like, but, you know, then you can't hand us pieces of paper and stuff. Everything would have
Well,
to be submitted.
if Matt makes a recommendation, and he says, yeah, we might want to talk to the, you know, the commission, then of course I will appear and straighten out any confusion.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any other questions on your own that you decide you want to talk to them about, you're always, like I said, we keep it on the agenda as a, kind of like a tickler file system.
Yep.
Just to keep it on, you know, present. But our first meeting of the month, which is the first Wednesday, we do the first and third Wednesdays. The first Wednesday is always a Zoom, so we
I
don't
appreciate
do
that,
an
because I was
in-person
not aware of
meeting.
that.
So, What I'll do is I'll email Rob Oliver tomorrow, see what his availability is, and let you know.
Okay, and then just let me know, and, I'll make sure I'm available.
Yeah, I think you'll find Rob a big help.
Okay, I hope so, because I need all the help I can get. Just ask my wife.
She kind of reminds me of my wife. My wife always tells me what I do.
Is
Oh,
that,
you guys are in trouble.
Okay, we're gonna stop all these comments and go back to the agenda.
I apologize.
All right,
A little bit of sense of
Good job,
humor gets me in
Bob. Thank you.
trouble.
all right.
You know me, I'm a perpetual wise guy.
Thank you very much for coming in, and, be in touch with Matt.
Okay, are we good?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you guys
everybody.
for coming, I appreciate it.
So now, we're gonna go back to the various things that we skipped. I'm gonna go, first of all, we're gonna do the last public hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Christopher and Susan DeGeorge will be held. Work proposes improvement of access to Lake Shirley and control of erosion within 100 feet of a wetland resource area at 48 Pearl Street. And I'm looking for a motion to continue that until September 1st.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we haven't heard anything from these people, and it looks like that they're a long way from having their engineering issues resolved, because they're looking for, I believe, a structural, which is gonna take them some time.
Let's continue it to
I'd
September,
like to actually, I was thinking the October 6th meeting.
October 6th.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a motion to continue this until October 6th. Do you know if that's okay with the applicant?
I haven't heard from the applicant. We just keep continuing it. I talked to the engineer, which is Mr. Anderson from Hannigan. He said they're looking for a subcontracting engineer, but they haven't gotten any firmer details yet.
October 6th. I'm looking for a motion to continue until October 6th.
So move.
All right, motion and made and seconded. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. The hearing for the Richies has already been continued to September 1st. Let's go back to the second thing on our agenda.
Really quick, I did hear from the Richies. The plans coming from them are imminent, so they may actually be at the September 1st meeting.
Okay. Let's go back to review of draft Reno and Hollis Road cutting plans by Gary Goldrup. Since the last meeting, I went out and I met with Gary Goldrup and walked the site. Well, actually, we didn't walk the site, we talked the site. And then we went over to behind the Water District office to look at where the landing zone would be for the Hollis Road. And we discussed the changes that the commission was looking for at the last meeting. And Gary submitted new cutting plans. On the Chase Road cutting plan, he eliminated the areas to be cut that were between the stone wall and the property on, what's the name of that road there, Old Farms or something?
Yeah, it is Old Farm.
Old Farm, holy mackerel. Old Farms Road. And I had asked him to he submitted a revised plan that showed that the loop skid trail will be maintained as a walking trail at the end of the project. And he also specified that the treetops would be broken down to minimize the width of the skid trails. On the Hollis Road cutting plan, he indicated that the that the tree tops would be broken down to minimize the width of the skid trails, the skid roads, and on that particular property, both skid roads, because there's only two of them, that are shown on the map, will be left clear of debris at the end so they can be maintained for use as a hiking trail. Are there any comments or questions on these revised? I think they reflect all the changes that the commission requested. As if there are no additional questions or concerns from commissioners, I'm looking for a motion to approve these cutting plans, but I'd be happy to anybody have any additional comments or questions?
Mr.
Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, sir. In order to avoid future, we don't want a repeat of small town forest. Is there any reason why we wouldn't just put them up and tell everybody to come take a look and give them a chance to comment?
Jack,
Yeah,
we put an ad in the paper,
but you've made modifications since then, Bob, right?
to make them even better
Okay,
and to mitigate the impacts.
Haven't we already had some?
Based on two public hearings in which no one showed up
okay.
after we put an ad in the paper. So I applaud your wish to involve the public, but I think we've given the public ample opportunity to comment, and I'm comfortable voting at this time.
No,
Speaking for myself.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? I'm looking for a motion to approve these two cutting plans.
So moved.
Motion made by Patty, seconded by
Second?
Mike LaRouche. Roll call vote, Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself. New business. The Conservation Commission will be holding a hearing for updating land use management plans for the Lane property, Holman Street and Table Rock Saliba property. The meeting, the public is invited to attend. And so, is there any members of the public who wish to comment on this? I don't think we have any members of the public left except for Mr. Passios. But there's no one here present in the room. So, I'm proposing that we make two changes to each land use management plan. One, we eliminate the need for a special permit to go bow hunting on each property. And two, we eliminate the need to hold a site walk if we do a future revision of these land use plans. Let's do it two separate motions. Or we could do it in one motion. You think we could do it one motion, Matt? I don't see why not.
Yeah, you can do it in one motion, absolutely.
I'm looking for a motion to amend both the land use management plan for the Lane property and for Table Rock to eliminate the need for a special permit in order to bow hunt, so that bow hunting is as of right use, and to eliminate the need for a site walk in case we ever want to take and revise these, make further revisions to these plans in the future.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second, moved by Mr. Rabbit, seconded by Mr. LaRouche. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. Request for votes to authorize change in the status of conservation properties. They just posted a notice that they're gonna accept warrants articles for the special town meeting in the fall. And I'm looking for authorization to request the town council draft the special town meeting articles transferring to the care and control of the Conservation Commission parcel 162-004-2-0 at 970 rear West Townsend Road. By way of explanation, that's the parcel that we thought we took care of last year, at last year's special town meeting, but we had the wrong parcel number. And also parcel 16285-1-0 at 781 rear Page Street. That's the Fairbanks land. If you take and you look at the open space maps, the state open space maps on GIS, if you look at our present open space plan, and if you look at the present assessor's website database, they all indicate that that is presently conservation land. However, in order for land to be considered conservation land, it either has to state it's conservation land in the deed, or it has to have had a special town meeting vote indicating, that it was transferred to the care and control of Conservation Commission, and this land has neither, based on our past research. And so I'm asking for authorization to also ask the town attorney, town council, to draft the article for that land also. Are there any comments or questions on this request? For Jack?
Always questions, Bob, but thank you so much, sir. If the town turns us down, because we know we've heard some noise with regard to conservation getting all this land and concerns about it, if they turn us down, what happens to that property? Who takes care of it?
Darned if I know. The Board of Selectmen, it remains in the hands of the Board of Selectmen. But, but the thing is, right now, if you take and you look, most references show both of these parcels as being conservation land. But, and so general wisdom, general knowledge is that they are conservation lands. The problem is, we don't have a very good legal basis for it. And so that's what I'm trying to address through these motions.
Yeah, as far as I know, we're the only viable vehicle for really maintaining and taking care of these properties and developing them, so I don't know. But Bob, thank you for doing good work there.
So Jack, was that a motion?
Yes, I so moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jack. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mike LaRouche seconded it. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Katie Childs. Katie not participating. Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. That's what I get for thinking about something else while I'm looking at the list. And then the second thing I'm asking for is request the assessor make the following changes to the assessment database if the changes have not already been made. The first is divide parcel 162-28-9-0 into two parcels. The front parcel with deed book 542, page 214, under the care and control of the select board. That's the old dump. It has its own deed, okay, and it's the old dump. It was never, and the deed says it's, was purchased, at a town meeting, but for the select board, for the people of Lunenburg. This rear parcel has deed book 966, page 580. It has its own deed, which says that it's under the care and control of the Conservation Commission. And right now, those two are shown as one parcel. And I'd like authorization to go to the assessor and say, hey, assessor, before you leave, can you take and split these parcels into two pieces, each with their own, and indicate that this one is under the care and control of Conservation Commission, it is conservation land, and this one is not. And so I'm looking for such a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Patty Adams. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike LaRouche. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. And finally, I'm looking for authorization to go and talk with both the tax collector, the assessor, and probably the Board of Selectmen to reclassify the following three parcels as being under the care and control of the Select Board. If you take and you look at the assessor's database, right now it shows that each of these three parcels are assigned to the Conservation Commission, but in all three cases, they do not have a deed or town meeting action that indicates that they're assigned to the Conservation Commission. And it's my humble opinion, they shouldn't be, but I'm looking, to see, does the rest of the commission agree with this and, to authorize me to go forward with this. The first is parcel 162-135-19-0, 25 Fire Road 19. That's the Lake Shirley Dam. I don't think that's passive recreation land. The second is 1629825-0 at 75 Lakefront Avenue. That's the Whalum waterfront. It goes, it's paved, it's got a wall along the entire thing, people fish off of it, and there is no deed for this property. I'm still trying to research, who that property should belong to, but there is, at least as far as I can find, there is no deed for it, and so it's not properly assigned to conservation, and so I'd like to say, hey, Board of Selectmen, probably belongs to Parks and Rec, not us. And then finally, parcel 162-88-31-0 at 374 Page Street. That's the Oliver lot. I think it's like 5 acres or something like that. And it shows in the assessor's database as being possibly tax title. We do not have knowledge of a deed. I'm not saying there isn't a deed, but right now we don't have knowledge of a deed. It doesn't really fit with our other conservation lands. And I'm suggesting that we take and we ask the assessor to change their database on this, and also to talk to the Board of Selectmen about it. So I'm looking for, if there's no discussion, first of all, are there any questions or discussion about any of these parcels? Hearing that, I would love a motion to approve, authorize me to go forward to see if we can't get these reclassified as being under the care and control of the Select Board in the assessor's database.
So moved.
So moved by Mike LaRouche, seconded by Jack Rabbit. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And aye for myself. The next thing on the agenda is the role of the conservation and 40B applications. I put this on the agenda. I just want to remind everybody that the Conservation Commission is going to hear this application. It's going to come before us. When it comes before us, we have a duty to make our decision based on the evidence that is presented in the public hearing that we have on that. And I caution anyone against doing independent research that could come to bear on this, and widely publicizing that, because I think it could jeopardize your ability to participate in that hearing. I am going to talk to town council about, because right now we're just in the phase where we send our input. Individuals are welcome to send their input in to the Board of Selectmen about should this project be eligible for a housing subsidy program. That's the only question on the table at this time. All this stuff about, is it a good idea to put it there or anything else like that, it is not germane to the question that's being considered at this time. The question that's being considered at this time is it eligible for a subsidy program? Then it'll go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And my question to the town council is, should we take and advise the Zoning Board of Appeals of our concerns so they can take care of it? I don't know how we can do that if we don't meet as a board to do that, if it hasn't come before us. Because if you take and you look at it now, they're talking about paving quite a bit of parking lot within the buffer zone, but it's outside the 50-foot. It's between 50 and 100. And who knows what it'll appear, if that'll be the plan that we actually are presented with, when it comes time to hear it. I just want to make that clear how I feel. That's my personal opinion about it as chair. I just want people to be cautious and to not jeopardize their ability to participate in this decision, because I'd love to have a full board when it comes before us. Any comments or questions from commissioners? Jack Rick.
You knew this was coming, Bob. Okay, first of all, when we met last time, the submission, all our comments were to be sent into the Selectman's office through Heather, and it was due, I believe, on the 18th. It's now been pushed out to the 23rd. I have a meeting actually scheduled with Adam Costa, on Monday from 12 to 12:40 to go over my research and ask him what is he thinking with regard to comments. I do hesitate to make any public comments right now because this information and research is to the best of my knowledge. Therefore, Bob, I was going to sit you guys down and go over all the things that I had found, and I was going to send you a document that would, but I think that perhaps I did speak to Heather with regard to the issues and concerns that I had. She did not have a problem with me sharing it with you, but
Jack, Heather may not have a problem with it. I have a problem with it as chair because it seems to me like it's a violation of the open meeting law if you're going to send us documents that reflect your personal opinion and research not at a public meeting.
Right. So therefore, if it's not at a public meeting, I can do it right now if you'd like, Bob. And then it's a public meeting and I can then forward it along. I mean, I believe then you're advising me that I would be an open meeting law violation. Heather, when I talked to her, she goes, if you do this tonight, then you would not be an open meeting law. If I went and held back and reviewed it with Adam Costa and go through the attorney-client privilege, I could then potentially come back to you and share with what I had.
What's your goal, Jack? Are you trying to?
My goal is essentially to make our team aware of all the issues that are floating around.
And so why don't we wait and find out what those issues are in the public hearing, the way the process was designed?
Well, the process designed right now is the selectmen were looking for input from our committee specific to this development. And essentially, we were not able to really get together and have a meeting on it to meet the 18th deadline. So
what input could we possibly give them on its eligibility for a housing subsidy, Jack?
Okay, I can give you, with regard to the application that was presented and the feedback, I can give you information that would cause potentially a response by our town to the housing authority, essentially that might cause them to rethink how they're approaching it. I would be primarily responding to the application sent to the town and made available to all the town, made available to everybody, and with regard to what was happening. My proposal, what I would be sharing with you is what I believe is the current state, the appropriate state and regulations that might have an effect. I would look at specifically some of the elements of the O'Brien submission. I have some other pending questions that still need to be resolved. And then I would provide you with a little bit of a legal overview in that with regard to the laws that are affecting this particular development.
It sounds, Jack, it's my personal opinion that what you're proposing falls under the jurisdiction of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Our job is to take and consider their application under the Massachusetts Inland Wetlands Act, and we shouldn't be taking testimony that could affect or talking about it before the public hearing, period.
The Selectman's office has asked.
Good, then send it to the Board of Selectmen.
Well, that's what I'll do then. If you don't want to see it, I'll just send it right to them. I
As
can
an
do that too.
as an individual.
Yeah, okay, now that brings up a real interesting piece. If I go to Adam, I'm attempting to use the attorney-client privilege. I'm not interested in being sued as an individual, right? And all my data has backup with it. That would be my interpretation based on the background that I have. I'm not interested at all in getting any kind of legal piece. And I can absolutely, as you're all aware, they are very aggressive on that legal piece. So therefore, I'm not interested in getting in and participating at all unless I have attorney-client coverage and I'm under the town umbrella.
And I can't advise you about that, and I can't guarantee you that I'm right in my approach here, but I'm just being cautious. I can't guarantee you
Bob, I
I'm being
appreciate
right.
it.
I'm just
And as
being cautious as chair,
And as I have shared with you, I sincerely appreciate as many eyes on this project as we can get, because I know I'm probably missing some pieces. I know that there are multiple laws that are coming into play. I know that there's the whole NEPA side of the equation. I know that the environmental concern piece in terms of, and the heritage piece. I know that there's even an issue with regard to endangered species and species in the guarded position that would be potentially appropriate. That there is no argument, there is a debate there. I think that there are a number of issues that need to be brought to the attention of our selectmen and select board. Now, if you prefer, I won't share it with you, but I want to make sure that I don't lose that coverage. It's just not worth it to me, Bob. You know what I mean? And so, if I came back and after meeting with Adam, submitted it to Heather and sent it to you folks, then you could have a discussion the following meeting with regard to what was submitted. But I want the attorney-client
we
coverage.
won't be having such a discussion under my leadership.
Say that again?
We won't be having such a discussion under my leadership. I think it's inappropriate. I think we shouldn't be talking about the application before the public hearing. Period, the end.
Where it's been made, I believe it's been posted as a public document, right? And if it's posted as a public document, then as long as we're open about our discussion points and we make those public documents.
I'll also be discussing this with our town council on that same day. You'll be meeting with town council.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong in my approach, Jack, I'll apologize and I'll take it all back. But that's my position tonight.
Yeah, we're both doing the best things we can, Bob. The good news is I meet with him from 12 to 12:40, and I suspect you'll be meeting after him, because I got the first slot, but you'll be going after that. So have that discussion, and if you want, then let's put together a workshop, and I will send all the documents, and we can go from there. I know
No workshop, Jack.
No workshop, okay.
No workshop, Jack.
No workshop.
Public hearing.
Okay.
Decision based on the information. That is the way it's supposed to work, and that's the way it will work.
Okay, so we have it into the 18th. I don't know when the Department of Housing will come back with their responses. And, but if I send it to you beforehand, doesn't that become a public document? For inclusion? Let's let Adam tell us what we need to do. I'm not, as I said, I have no desire to get on the wrong end of any legal stick. And so therefore, I will continue to develop my piece. I will meet with Adam, and then I will hand the thing over to Heather as a researcher under legal client, I'll have the attorneys agree that this is what, I'm now protected. I don't want to be involved in the suit. It's going to be a significant outlay. And having done research with regard to the capabilities, the legal capabilities of the petitioner, I'm very confident that this is going to be a big one. And I don't want to be involved in it from any kind of exposure. None, zero. But Heather told me I could do it tonight, so I don't know. But I'm being cautious, and there's no way in hell I'm jeopardizing my own personal asset base.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, old business.
I do have one question, Bob.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Is Jack meeting with him as a resident of the town? It seems to me like he is.
I was originally asked by this group to do research and submit the information that I had found to Heather prior.
Wait,
go ahead.
What group?
What
group
asked you to do anything, Jack?
You guys did.
No, we didn't. I said if you wanted to do something as an individual, that was your right.
As a member.
I don't have an issue with him meeting with town council as a resident. I just don't think that's good use of his time.
Well,
my opinion.
Yeah, I've shared my strategy with Heather. Heather told me tonight that I could go this afternoon, that I could share it with you folks.
That's great. Heather's not chairman of the Conservation Commission.
Heather is the requesting agent. And we were not in a position back then to meet as a group.
Jack, we're moving on to the next agenda item unless someone else has another comment.
I just wanted to know if I could.
Absolutely, Michael.
When is the open meeting schedule or on this project?
Michael, there's step one is they send us a notice.
Okay.
Okay? They send the town a notice, and there's now a comment period to go to the housing authority. And the housing authority, and only the housing authority, will make a decision about, is it eligible for the 40B subsidy program? That's the only thing that's on the table right now. After that occurs, then there'll be a consolidated hearing held by the Zoning Board of Appeals, okay, on everything related to this, under like the Board of Health issues, the sewer issues, the planning issues, the water district issues. All of those will be considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals, okay? The Massachusetts Inland Wetlands Act considerations will come to this body. Okay, so we have a role there, and we're a long way from that. You know, they've made no application because they can't yet, because they haven't been certified to be eligible for the 40B program. You know, and at that time, you know, I'm sure the Zoning Board of Appeals will be seeking input from members of the public, okay, or interested parties, you know, about, is it in a area of, you know, critical environmental concern, or is it a critical landscape area, or those sorts of things. But that's not being considered right now, and it's not the time to consider those things.
I hear you. So the public meeting has not been scheduled yet?
No, because they haven't even applied yet.
Okay. So it sounds like all the research that Jack has done, if he were to sit on it, he would be ready when all of those other pieces...
Yes, he would.
Okay.
And that depends on what the refined proposal is, because right now all they have is a basic schematic of a proposal.
I hear you.
Variables in that.
And I understand.
This is premature, and you're possibly jeopardizing the integrity of our consideration of their application in the future.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I believe that we were asked by the selectmen to review the application and comments and comment back to them as related to those particular responses. I believe that was the request.
Thank you, Jack. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'll go see Adam, and I'm sure you'll meet with him after.
No, I'll
And
meet with them
I will
first.
take Adam's advice, and we can go from there. I have no problem sitting on this data for a few months. I'm continuing to collect more. It's really amazing. I wish I had done this 3 years ago. I'd know a lot more. But there are other players, Bob. You know, there's we got the zoning board, we've got the sewer commission, the Lunenburg Water, planning board, the open spaces committee, I believe, isn't that on that? Are they on that
Open
part of
space
it?
has no role.
No? Okay. And then you got the MIPA folks, which is a whole different other organization. And then you got a whole pile of regulations, whether the 310 CMR, they have 440B handbook that I went through. There are some pieces in there. Okay, anyway, I won't go through it because I don't want to get in trouble. But in either case.
Jack, we're gonna move
Yeah.
on to the next agenda.
Let's
item.
move on, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jack. Old business. Review of encroachment onto all conservation properties using the assessor's orthophotographs. At the last meeting, when we looked at this and we looked at all the various encroachments, I said, that I would start working on photographs, from the ground level. And I was gonna do that the other day, and I thought, I'm gonna wait until, I don't have to it's cold enough so I don't have to worry about ticks and getting bit to death by the mosquitoes, which are unbelievably fierce right now.
They are.
And so that's one thing that's happened. I will take and forward on to Adam, I think there's like 2 or 3 instances of encroachment where we do have ground level photographs. I will forward those on to Adam discuss the entire approach with him when I meet with him, next Monday.
Okay.
And I will forward the ones where we already have ground level photographs onto them, to draft letters. The other thing that's happened is the selectmen came back, Rob Oliver obtained a quote from Dillis and Roy for $6,500 to do a survey and $1,500 to stake it, so $8,000, but that included all of the additional encroachments, or not all of it, 3 additional encroachments that Rob Oliver, identified in close proximity to 192 Townsend Harbor Road. One on Woodland and 2 on Townsend Harbor. And I asked Heather to be on the agenda of the selectmen's meeting next Tuesday, because my thing is, we should wait until we've sent those other abutters letters to see, do they dispute it? And are they willing to take and just say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll move the stuff off conservation land, and the issue goes away before we start spending the townspeople's money on surveys. And so I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but that's where that stands. Okay?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, sir. You'd asked me if we spoke with regard to using drones. I have 2 folks that are willing to volunteer to do drone flyovers. So if you could just get me the addresses that you wanted, I'll work with them to get you the pictures.
Super, that'd be great. We should talk, we should talk about that, some other time, offline.
Okay, yeah, just give me the addresses or whatever.
All right, anything new on any of these, other enforcement actions?
Okay, so Leominster Road, Mark Popham has been retained by the town to file the notice of intent. Mark, as you recall, did the 21E site work out there, so he's familiar with the territory. And I've also worked with Mark over the years on NOIs, in various roles as a regulator, so he knows what he's doing, so we should have something from him shortly. 205 Arbor Street, still waiting for an answer from DEP. You guys have been very careful about what he's been doing with the manure piles and liming them. 37 Pearl, I actually have a meeting with them next week to go over the RDA forms that they're going to submit for the walkway that they're doing a retroactive filing on. 23 Cove Road, we obviously just had that on there.
And there's one that should have been on here, and somehow I deleted it, was accidentally, it
Was the Oak Ridge Road.
Oak Ridge Road.
I've put in a request for dates for a site visit to the property owners. I'm waiting to hear back, so.
Well, I would say, Matt, I mean, this has been going on for like 6 weeks now, where we've been waiting to hear back. I think we're gonna have to be more assertive if we don't hear back soon.
Certainly.
Okay. Update on the Trails Grant. I expect that next week, there will be a major article in the Lunenburg Ledger about the Trails Grant and about how people can help out. And I'm working with Neil Trahan, who's a adjunct member of our IT staff, about redoing the Conservation Commission website to break it into 3 parts, or 1 part that deals strictly with, Inland Wetlands Act, another part that deals with the Trails Grant, and another part that, shows maps of all our conservation lands. So hopefully that's all gonna come together. And certificates of compliance.
So 611 Reservoir Road, Mr. Gormley, I've already informed him, he's acknowledged needs an as-built.
Okay.
So he's having Anthony Cleese, who was the original design engineer, finish that up. Leominster Housing Authority, I have an as-built on file, which I believe I put on the cloud for you guys.
I remember that application, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, recommending the certificate be issued.
I'm looking for a motion to recommend, to approve the issuing of certificate of compliance for Leominster Housing Authority on White Street. It's the replacement of a septic system, and it's on top of this little knoll in an area where it is really porous gravel. We did it about a year and a half ago.
So moved.
Motion by Patty Adams, seconded by?
Can I second this since I was?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I wasn't here a
Mike
year and a half
LaRouche.
ago. Okay, I'll second.
And so, roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Katie, Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. How about Settler Solar Northfield? A little more to go there?
No, actually, we've got reports in from Tom Christopher showing the site stable. I've got the as-built plans from them. I've got the certifications from them. The only condition that I left as a perpetual condition on a draft certificate was the perpetual condition that they keep submitting stormwater reports every year to us.
Super.
Now that the site's going online, they're gonna need to submit the reports, and that was, we had that put in as a perpetual, so I left it on the certificate.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve Settler Solar Northfield Road certificate of completion, of compliance, rather.
So moved.
So moved by Patty Adams, seconded by?
Second?
Second by Mike LaRouche. Roll call vote. Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Patty Adams.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
And I for myself. Committee reports. Administrators reports, action items. What's this Swain 169 Hemlock Drive?
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go back on the cloud, and I'm just gonna share the document. If you bear with me for one moment.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, while he's got a moment, I need to call it a night. I was up early this morning, probably around 3 a.m.
Jeff, thank you so much for your participation up until now.
Yep. All right, thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Take care, Jeff. We still have a quorum.
So, 169 Hemlock, the Swains, what they have are 2 dead hemlock trees. I'm gonna share the photos here online, just bear with me for 1 sec. Okay, you can, there we go. Okay, so this one is actually on the left side of the house. It's actually in the front of the house. This hemlock is dead. There are 2 pictures of it. This shows the bottom of it. This is the second hemlock. It's marked, actually, if you zoom in the pictures, with some ribbon. There's an oak tree in front of it that's remaining, but this hemlock is essentially a dead stick.
And it's hanging right over the house?
Yeah, and you can see the other angle shot of the first dead hemlock. Both hemlocks are on basically the outer edge of the buffer zone, and like over 70 feet away, more like closer to 90. So there's really, you know, they're dead trees, they're right next to the house. Don't see any reason why they should be left
Looking
there.
for a motion to approve administrator's determination that these 2 trees be removed at 169 Hemlock Drive.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and seconded, roll call vote. Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself. How about Tremblay, 386 Sunset Lane?
Okay, so this is the area on the side opposite from his house where he's gonna be doing the crane work for his wall.
Yeah.
This tree right here is deader than dead.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
But essentially, he wants to go in and get rid of it now. The reason why it hasn't fallen over, you can see from here, it's actually leaning up on
held.
the branch.
Yeah.
And you can zero in, this other branch that's still alive on this other tree is actually holding the dead tree up.
I'm looking for a motion, is it just the one tree?
Just that one tree.
Looking for a motion to approve the removal of this dead tree.
So moved.
All right, motion by both Patty and Mike, and seconded by Patty and Mike. Roll call vote, Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself. Open space, land use and trail issues and strategies, nothing comes to mind. Oh, I did want to go back to one thing. If you recall, or some of you might not recall, Carl Luck once came to us about the property that's presently identified as owner unknown, right in front of his house. And I said at the time, I didn't think it was appropriate for us to take it up with him as a member. He's no longer a member, and I'm gonna take it up, unless someone objects, I'm gonna take it up with town council when I meet with them, because I believe that Carl was absolutely correct, and that the deed for that property shows that it's conservation.
Yeah, there's also some dumping going on to the property. I want to talk about getting some no dumping signs on.
Okay.
I've already spoken to Heather about that, and right now, as it's listed as a kind of a no man's land as ownership, she doesn't have a problem with putting the signs up. But people are depositing a lot of detritus and yard waste there.
Okay.
So, I know, you know, Carl pointed it out to me when we went for his administrator's determination to remove his tree. So,
Okay.
I want to make sure that that's addressed. So I'll wait till we have our talk with council next week.
Any public comment from members of the commission?
I have a quick screen share. I just wanted to share with you guys. It'll
Go
take
ahead.
2 seconds.
We lost that one member of the public, it's just us.
So as you can see, this is an email from Mary Ann DePinto. I went up and looked at it today. This is the actual replication area on Bright Farms.
Yep.
Even though they didn't build the facility, they still did the wetland reproduction that they were supposed to do for the isolated wetland. This is a much bigger section, as you can see. You've got several different types of grasses. You've got some shrubs that she planted herself that are growing in. It's coming up. I went up there this morning and took a look at it. It's beautiful. It's coming out absolutely beautiful. Couldn't be more impressed. I just thought I'd share that with you guys so you could take a
So
quick.
all you businesses out there that are looking to move to Lunenburg know that we've got this piece of land that's already had the wetlands removed from in the middle of it. It's ready to go. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Patty Adams,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, is Patty Adams, are you Richard Tremblay?
No?